The Healing Vibrations in Water with Dr. Corrine Allen.
But we're going to talk today about healing vibrations in water. And we really have the healing water on the planet. So what is the healing vibrations in the water? It's really voltage. Voltage is the electricity. Most human cells operate in a pH from 7.35 to 7.4, which can also be indicated as a voltage range of minus 20 millivolts to minus 25. Now, this is very important when you see how diseases all have a voltage. And health and disease is all about voltage. Vibration is measured in volts. So let's look at the definition of vibration. Vibration is the oscillation or the repetition motion of an object around an equilibrium position, and vibration is body motion. You know, we have a lot in our world today about vibes and vibration and energy, and all of this is God-given. It's all in the physics realm, and so it's not so out there. We're going to learn today how to kind of make it more real for us, because when you have the pH and the ORP meter, you can measure voltage. The volts are called the electromotive force, or the potential difference, usually expressed in volts. So how does the body heal itself? Here's a cell. The body doesn't get well making damaged cells work correctly. That is so key. Put that on your brain. You cannot go from a damaged cell to a healthy cell. It gets there by making new cells work correctly. This is so key. If you don't have the materials for a new cell to work correctly, you can't get healthy cells. If the body can't find those good, healthy materials to build one, it'll use whatever is available. It has to have the proper nutrition, but most importantly, if the cell inside the cytoplasm of the cell is 90% water, what is the most important thing? To have the right voltage, you have to have the right alkaline water needed to build that new cell. How do they get that voltage? How do they get that vibration? Well, we know groundwater, if it's not polluted, contains electrons, especially if it comes off the glaciers. When we add fluoride to our water and chlorine and chemicals, they steal electrons. You know that now. They have positive force and they steal it. And when we drink that water, it steals our voltage. When the water shows a negative voltage, or ORP, it's an electron donor. Now, you know these terms. We've taught you these. You understand them, but now you're getting a new perspective on how this works with voltage. Water shows a positive voltage, and the water, then it becomes an electron stealer. Now, the body, we all know we're making new bodies. Thank goodness we don't have a dead end, that we can actually improve things. We can actually become younger. This is how. The process of rebuilding new and healthy cells is based on the fact that the body is continually rebuilding itself. Rods and cones, look at how fast they will replace. 48 hours. The skin takes 6 weeks. The liver takes 8 weeks. Wow. The nervous system takes 8 months, and the bones take a year. So every year we can completely change ourselves. And we are rapidly making new cells. But remember, the key is we've got to have the right materials, the right water, or we can't make new healthy cells. We make cells from damaged. It's going to require, look at this, a minus 50 millivolt to make a new cell. Wow. Voltage means health or disease. If we have fluoride in the water, if we get it in our toothpaste, if we get it at the dentist, we're going to have the voltage being lost. If we have chlorine, that includes chlorine in your showers. You're going to be losing voltage from that. If you have still water, like a bath, how many of you take a bath and you get out and you're like a limp rag? It's because you've lost voltage. EMF. We talked a little bit about this. Your computers, your cell phones, your microwaves are all voltage stealers. So if you eat food that had any voltage in it and you've microwaved it, you just negated that voltage that you could have had to raise your voltage. Cooked food goes to a positive voltage, which means it's going to lower your voltage. Anytime you have a lack of minerals, minerals are more important than vitamins. They are the things that pull the vitamins in. And low voltage supplements, a lot of people don't understand about voltage in supplements, and they'll just go, buy the cheapest one or buy the one that somebody recommends. And a lot of times people send supplements to me to check, and I check their energy frequency. And there are many times there's lots of research, or it's research that talks about things that the vitamin does, but the bottom line is, what is the voltage of it? What are the megahertz in that vitamin? And I've come to the point where I've pretty much scrapped 90% of the supplements that I recommend. And the ones that I recommend only have high voltage. And because I know that if you get one of something that has high voltage, it's worth 20 and 30 of those that don't. Negative emotions, they will pull your voltage down. You know this if you have a negative mate, if you have a negative child, if you have a negative boss, if you have anybody that's negative, what do you have to do to protect yourself? Your thought process has to stay above that, because that will pull you down. That's your voltage going down. You have to have any acid water sources, any tap water, any bottled water, any distilled water, any of these spring waters, they will pull your voltage down. And it's so subtle that we don't even realize it. So how do we pull the voltage up? We're going to have to eat whole, unprocessed, chemical-free food. And we're going to have raw organic foods. We're going to put our feet in dirt or peat moss. We discovered this cool thing because we get people who have EMF poisoning, electromagnetic poisoning, and they have had, remember I told you they first have a blood-brain barrier opening somewhere in their life from birth till that time. They've had some kind of an incident that has attacked the brain and has caused spinal or brain injury. They then get into, I had this gal who lived with the big power lines right next to her house, and she had had an injury earlier, and she was deathly ill. And for years, she could only live on her bed with grounding mats and things on her bed. That's where she lived. But she discovered some ways to get well, came to the brain program, and in 12 days, she was a new person, went back home. And one of the things we discovered was the grounding. We were already doing grounding. We do grounding mats, and I sleep on a grounding mattress. It's a sheet, actually. And we put grounding mats on our under our computers for our office help, because all of that helps you like you're in the dirt, because we're not in the dirt. So we found that peat moss with kelp and frankincense is a way for people who can't get outside or the weather's too inclement to be able to actually add voltage to their system. And it will drain the EMF poisoning molecules, actually, or energy frequency, out of their system. So it's a fabulous way to gain energy. Soaking in the sunshine, oh my goodness, the sunshine is good for you, and it adds voltage. And if you stand in water that's running, like a shower or a stream that's running, and iodine is very important for your voltage. If the thyroid is not working right, the system cannot take on voltage properly. And of course, proper mineral supplementation. You get it in the water, but you really should have an extra source of good minerals. High voltage supplements, if you're questioning what those might be for you, we do offer help for people to help them find the right supplements. And hugging someone or something. And you want to find somebody that has higher voltage because if you're always hugging somebody that has lower voltage, they're going to take your voltage. And then, of course, you want the right kind of water. You've got to have ionized, microclustered alkaline water. Now, all the cells work on voltage. There's chemistry and there's electricity in the body. And this is, I always say, electricity moves chemistry, and it does. That's how it works in the body. They have to have enough voltage to work, and chronic disease is a loss of voltage. So if you are sick, anything that you have that you are sick. Your voltage is down. And in order to raise that voltage, you have to do something. And doesn't it make sense that if the most important thing in your cell, 80% of your brain, 75% of your body, and 90% of your cell is water, wouldn't that be the logical place to change first to get your health? And it's related to the pH of what goes into that. When there's low voltage pain, if you have any pain, you have chronic low voltage. If you have fatigue, it's low voltage. It's a lack of oxygen in the cells and inefficient metabolism. You're sluggish, your weight's not coming off. And when your voltage drops, it activates all the bugs, the viruses, the bacteria, the fungi in your body, and they start feeding. Chronic disease is always low voltage. Any kind of pain, again, cells don't have enough voltage to do their job. And even if they don't have enough, if you raise the voltage and they can't maintain that voltage, you have to maintain that voltage. They can't get rid of the waste because they're toxic. They have to have energy to move that waste out. And when it pools in the body and stays stagnant, the voltage drops. Microorganisms grow and they release toxins. And their digestive systems, their digestive enzymes are eating and working in the body, and they will travel through the body. The human body can heal itself. This is a very powerful statement. The key to making chronic disease better is making a single cell work. That's a principle of life. The key to changing your world, your marriage, your children is making you work. You change. Same in the body, down to the very micro level. If you give the body the things that one single cell needs, the body has the power to heal all the cells of the body. And that means you get well. This is Dr. Jerry Tennant. He's a very famous ophthalmologist. He discovered many things for the eye health and lasers and in techniques. And he was working with lasers. And as he was getting close to the eye and putting these on, the viruses would jump from the people into his brain through his eyes. And after a while, he became very ill and could only work a few hours a day, and then he was totally immobilized. He went to his medical profession and had no answers. He was desperate. So he said, nobody's going to heal me but heal myself. That's like me. I was very, very ill. And I said, nobody's going to heal me. I got to find my own answer. Right after I got out of college and I first got married, I was in bed and very ill for many years, and I just read all the time. That's what he did. He read biochemistry, and he said, if we can understand how the cell works, I can get well. So he had about 3 hours a day that he could really do anything. And he laid there and he started to understand the electricity in the cell, and he figured out a phenomenal, research him on the internet, as phenomenal information. And he wrote a book called Healing is Voltage, very powerful book. And when you understand this, you can see he sort of opened up its information that's there, but it was kind of not put together in the way that he put it together. Electron stealers will drop our voltage. What are they? When cells start dropping below that 20 millivolts, we begin to have health issues. And the electron stealers are the cause of this. In an experiment by a Dr. Keith Brewer, he dropped the voltage of the cells in a petri dish from minus 20 to plus 30. Now that's a big span. And guess what? The cells became malignant. Ding, ding, ding. Anybody ever had cancer? Anybody had skin cancer? Anybody had any kind? That's exactly what happened to you. The voltage was added back up to minus 65 millivolts. And what happened? The cancer cells all died. Caffeine lowers voltage. Yes, I still love you. It acts as a diuretic. It depletes the body of what? Neurochemicals. And it leads to brain fog, insomnia, poor memory, anger, and confusion. Voltage and electrons. What are the stealers? We know the chlorine and the fluoride in the drinking water. And here's something a lot of people don't know. Even in the health food store, we're getting canola oil. And I don't trust everything in your health food store. You must understand the body. Of course, they sell acid water. That's number one. I don't think they have any alkaline water that's truly a negative voltage. Canola, trans fats, hydrogenated fats, deep fried foods, these are all electron stealers. There are many electron stealers in our environment that are introduced to our bodies. Microwave cell phones, the computers, stress, trauma. Remember, I defined trauma from what I'm seeing working with people as anything that you interpret as a negative situation. It can be on the low level of trauma, but they build, and the more you build those negative situations, whether it's the way your father spoke to you, the way your boss treated you, the husband or wife you married, and the relationship there, it builds all this negative, this positive voltage in you. Standing in the dirt is how we build it. Swimming in the ocean, running water, unprocessed, raw, chemical-free food. Note that I'm really emphasizing raw. Raw is really important in your diet for voltage. Very, very important. I have a Vitamix, oftentimes for lunch, and I love it because I don't really like to come up and cook, because I like to get things done. I'm very goal-directed, type A, So I'll come up, throw a cucumber, an avocado, celery, anything, spinach, and throw that all together and add a couple lemons. It's delightful. I love it. And I'll drink that, and then I'll make enough for my staff, and they love it because they're on the same frequency as I am. And then the right kinds of fats is very important. I would say the highest is coconut oil. And then these are all unprocessed oils, then olive oil. And then from there, any oil that's unrefined and unprocessed. Trauma clearing. This is why we offer this when we travel, because this will raise your voltage amazingly. When you clear out all that negative stuff in the DNA, and that's what the essential oils can do, you can raise your voltage. And the most important is the alkaline ionized microclustered water. How are you going to build that voltage? Well, the water, the microclustered, the whole natural, chemical-free food, the minerals, high voltage supplements, functioning thyroid. We don't think about this. And yet, a very large percentage of people are on thyroid supplement, a Synthroid or some kind of a thyroid supplement. And then clearing those negative emotions. And you can start right today, clearing your negative emotions. Every time that negative thought comes, when you want to judge somebody, think about, I just made a judgment. I don't like that dress, or you look awful today, or, I made a judgment. And I'm watching my thought process and going, I don't have the right to judge them. And how do I know that there isn't something extenuating circumstances in their life? And most of the time when we do find what's behind it, we can have a heart of compassion why people are presenting themselves the way they are. But that takes conquering your thoughts. Take every thought captive. Okay, how do we get electron donors? pH of 7.0 to 14. The pH, if it's alkaline, is an electron donor. Science knows that healthy people have an alkaline pH. An electron stealer, the pH from 7 down to 1 becomes acid, and it's a stealer. Disease and pain are always associated with an acidic pH. So, if you still have pain, if you still have a disease, what's going on in your body? You have low voltage. And that means that you need to take in higher voltage. And we're going to show you how to do that. Drinking acid water contributes to the system, and I might say anything with anything acid in sodas and coffee and such. And that will cause the low energy, the fatigue, excess weight, poor digestion, aches and pains, and even more serious disorders. We all know the pH scale, and I would look at that and say, what foods in my diet are really on the acid side? And what foods in my diet, really a plant-based diet is what we need to move to. And I'm with you, lots of that stuff that's plant-based isn't as tasty and as, great as the stuff that's acid, But once you start moving there and you change your thinking, it can really become enjoyable. So we're going to look at pH and voltage. If we have a 0 pH, it's actually plus 400 millivolts. If we have a 7 pH, it is a 0 millivolts. And if we have a 14 pH, it's a minus 400 millivolts. And that's the way we want to go. Now this will shift. We know this from how we've tested the water that comes from the very high alkaline. So it varies by your source and by the ionization or the water that you're getting, the pH and the alkaline water. So chronic disease is low voltage. pH measures the acidity and the alkalinity, but it's also measuring how much voltage is in a solution. Cells have to have enough voltage to remain healthy, and the chronic disease is just loss of voltage. There's our millivolts again. And so the body says the pH, remember, is a logarithmic scale. So if you have a minus 400 millivolts to a 400 millivolts, it's logarithmic because 7 to 14 is your donor and 0 to 7 is your stealer. And the body operates at a pH of 7.35. There's the connection, minus 20 millivolts. Cancer develops at what? You're going to know this. 30 plus millivolts. It also reverses polarity. You notice when I've done muscle testing, I put a finger on the bridge of the nose, and you put your pad of your finger to it, and then you turn your nail side to it, and you can test. That's polarity. And when people are the same strength, positive, in a muscle test on both of those, they have a switched polarity. And we always watch that in our brain camp, that our workers are getting their polarities not switched, and that our people, because when you have a switched polarity, everything that's tested is backwards. And one of the causes of this is that your voltage is low, your minerals are low, and you can't hold it. Viruses, fungus, bacteria, and cancer cells die when you have a minus 70 millivolts. What's that pH? It's 8.23, so 8.5 alkaline water is doing what? It's already raising our voltage. And then you have a minus 105 millivolts at the 8.84, so we're really moving it up there. When you have a plus 5 millivolts, you have a pH of 6.91 or higher. And that is where you have bacteria, viruses, funguses, and you have decreased oxygen, you go into pain, and you go into damage to the DNA. Cancer is damage to the DNA. The cells don't get the right message, they don't replicate properly. When you have the body 75% of this, you have to have voltage transfer via the fluids. That's what God intended. Now the pH is voltage. That's the power. Whew. Think of hydrogen. Remember I told you the hydrogen bombs? Think of that. Your pH is your hydrogen. And because your pH is included in the water, 75% of your solutions are always in play in your body. And much of that transfer of voltage is going to go through the water, through that. Just get a mental picture of what you're drinking. If you're drinking all kinds of things that have color to them, you're probably lowering your voltage. The pH neutralizes acids. One of the easiest and most effective ways to change your pH is to change your water. Not just the neutral water of 7.0, but you want alkalizing water. You want to go to the highest pH you can go to because you want to push that voltage as high as you can get. That's your 9.5 water is 500 times more alkaline than the water with a pH of 7. That's pretty amazing. That's a pretty logarithmic jump. Why is the vibration or voltage of water the key to healing? Think about this for yourself and think about this for others. Not only the amount, but it's very important the kind of water. The wrong water does what? Starves the cell and leads to a host of debilitating illnesses. Once the one water in particular flushes toxicity, balances acidity, delivers oxygen and minerals to your cells, and helps guard against these illnesses. Voltage is transferred via liquid. The fluid solutions can either carry additional electrons, making them electron donors, and electrons are necessary to do and perform the work in the cell. Now, electron stealers. They remove electrons, making them electron stealers. That's a new way to look at free radicals, isn't it? You know, when you think of it as stealing, who likes to be stolen from? Not me. We kind of get upset and drop our voltage when that happens. Free radicals are molecules that they are missing electrons, and they're looking to steal them from other molecules. So that makes them unstable and dangerous. Dangerous is kind of a strong word, but that's really what they are. Your health is in danger when you're getting those positive electron stealers. Free radicals create cellular chaos that can lead to a whole array of problems. Look at how the body transfers. Look at that. The liquids, 60%, and then you have proteins and fats. It's always going through the liquids. That's how God intended us to get it. When the human body is 75%, solutions are in play, and remember, removing the electrons with the positive is counterproductive. Here's just a quick overview of each part of the body. 90% in the cell, 75% in the muscles, 80% in the brain, 85% in the blood, and 70% in the body. Wow. Pretty amazing. Not all water is the same. You know that. But, you know, when you look at water, and people look at water on the street who haven't heard this, water's the same. Water's water. Oh, my tap water looks the same. It smells the same. It tastes the same. But when you look at water and you really see the quality, there's a big difference. The right kind of water raises the vibration. Water that is not alkaline, that is not properly ionized, and I say that word very poignantly, because if it's not properly ionized, it can't hold the voltage. It's all about being able to hold the voltage. If it's not done with the proper kind of power source,